Tokusatsu, taking the form of many shows including Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, and Metal Heroes. And today, a group of fans come together to review it for you as Toku Secrets.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the Toku Secrets podcast presented by AnimeSecrets.org. I am your host, Nathan Desai, and today we are returning to our flight as Jetman, as we are going to be taking a look at episodes 11 through 20 of Choujin Sentai Jetman. I am the leader, Nathan Desai, Yellow Owl, and we got the rest of the crew on board, so go ahead and announce yourself, guys.
I'm Rizwan, the Black Condor.
And I'm Anthony, the Green Hawk. Or Eagle. I think
Yeah,
Eagle.
Green Eagle. Yeah, it's Green
Eagle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Patrick, the Red Hawk or Shinken Red, whichever he took on, he is unfortunately not with us. The Vyram captured him, but don't worry, we have a little secret mission to rescue him for the next video.
Yeah.
So we're just going to jump right in. Like I said, we covered episodes 11 through 20 in the previous podcast. So let's begin. I'm going to give a brief recap of Jetman so far. Naturally, since we covered the first 10 episodes, we were introduced to the whole series. So for a brief recap for the entire plot of Jetman, 5 young humans were showered with energy waves called Birdonic waves, which gave them superhuman powers and the ability to become warriors called Jetmen. They are under the guidance of the Skyforce commander Aya Odagiri and armed with powerful jet machines that can combine into the Jet Icarus robot. And they protect the world from the evil Vyram, an interdimensional army of aliens from the reverse dimension who want to rule over our dimension. These 5 include the stoic and brave, by-the-book Skyforce officer Ryu Tendo, who is Red Hawk and lost his fiancée to the Vyram. The ditzy and spoiled, yet kind and noble rich girl, Kaori Rokumekan, White Swan, who also has a crush on Ryu. A clumsy and awkward, yet big and strong vegetable farmer, Raita Oishi. A yellow owl. A brash and cheeky but bubbly high school girl, Ako Hayasaka, Blue Swallow. And the aloof and standoffish playboy, Guy Yuki, Black Condor, who is second in command and often clashes with Ryu because they both have conflicting personalities, and he's in love with Kaori, and Ryu, but Kaori has feelings for Ryu. Together, they are Choujin Sentai Jetman. And for the Vyram, there are 4 generals in the Vyram. We have a sadistic and horribly arrogant Radiguet, who is the blue man in armor with a massive god complex and transforms into a feral monster, Radigim, whenever he's angry. Torin, a cloaked and masked child with psychic powers who gets joy out of torturing humans. Gray, who is an honorable robot of few words who strangely enjoys smoking cigarettes, drinking wine, and listening to classic music, as robots are known to do. And Maria, a ruthless humanoid woman in armor who resembles a striking resemblance to someone we've seen before, but we'll talk about that later. And these 4 are competing with each other to see who can defeat the Jetmen first. And whoever does that is declared the new leader of the Vyram. So there we go. With that said, let's jump into these episodes. We're going to start off with 2 filler episodes, starting with episode 11, A Dangerous Game, which doesn't have doesn't focus on any one ranger. It's more of a team-centric episode. In this episode, the Jetmen are all come under a spell when they drink sodas out of a possessed machine that Gray has turned into a dimension beast, and it causes them to change their personalities. Basically, Ryu becomes more of a lazy, guy who doesn't care about fighting. Guy becomes like noble and starts taking his Jetman duties more seriously. Raita turns into Guy, being more of a playboy. Kaori basically just turns into the spoiled rich girl who just loves her money that you would expect her to. And I don't know what's going on with Akko. Like, she starts acting more like innocent, girly girl-esque. I don't know.
She acts more scared, is basically what it is. Like she's more like
Akko, yeah, like I was gonna say, Akko generally presents as pretty confident, and so her less dominant trait is being timid and I wouldn't say girly, is more of timid and more less self-confident in who she is. And that manifests in her crying a lot more.
yep.
That's pretty much the whole episode. Just the Jetman having to deal with their changes in personalities. The running gag throughout the episode is that they'll hiccup, and every time they hiccup, they alternate between their natural personalities and their fake ones. Uh, I thought this episode was pretty good. I always love episodes where the Rangers act out of character because it shows like some acting talents for the actors. I think Ryu was funny. Guy was pretty subtle character development. Uh, Probably the biggest highlight of the episode is Raita acting like Guy, especially this one scene where he like walks up to a woman and he's like, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" Like that was
Honestly,
hilarious.
honestly, that's the best development we got from this episode was the Raita stuff
Hmm.
because you can kind of guess that Ryu does have a part of him that's lazy, but the reason you don't ever see it is because one, he's the red. Two, his fiance was literally killed by the people he's trying to fight. So he's extremely motivated to continue being serious and, hardcore about it. Um, Kaori, yeah, okay, she's, whatever. That's not really anything surprising there either. But
No.
Raita was very entertaining
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
it gives it indirectly gives more to him in that here we have a guy who up until now has basically been I'm going to keep using Voltron because I love Voltron a lot, but basically he's the hunk. He's the guy who's kind of the big lovable oaf that doesn't really get the ladies. He doesn't really get a lot of respect. And it's nice to see that Raita desires that respect and he desires having a girlfriend or whatever you want to put it for that.
Mhm.
But those are my thoughts on this episode.
I think the one thing I also want to comment on is that, unless I'm mistaken, I think this is the first time that Gray has made a scheme with
It
the battling the Jetman, and I think this kind of shows the different tactics with how they kind of go. Like with Ratigan, it's more like he's just sadistic, like he sends out monsters to like eat humans and just cause pain and suffering. Toran, because he's a child, just wants to watch humans like just he wants to torture them and laugh while he's doing it. Uh, Gray isn't really fooling around with his schemes. Like this is a scheme where he's trying to like divide the Jetman and like rip them apart from the inside. So yeah, that I know this is just one episode, but and maybe you guys got something different from it, but that's what I got with how Gray tends to operate.
I
Um,
got, I got that feeling from him too.
yeah, I
Yeah,
mean he
same.
did.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say yeah, I agree with you and Anthony.
Did you want to say anything, Anthony? You've been kind of quiet.
Oh yeah. So I actually found the highlight for me is the fact that Guy was acting more like Ryu, being optimistic, saying that like we should not be fighting. Let's do this together. And he's like, wait, what am I saying? I don't want to say this crap.
Well, okay, so that it's something I was going to bring up in a later episode we review, but I'll bring it up here as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of misconception on Guy in the first 10 episodes. Like, when we began podcasting Jetman last time, a big theme of Guy was, okay, Guy's a standoffish, aloof guy who's not really interested in anything but himself and the women around him. But the thing that we all overlook is that after like episode maybe 3 or 4, Guy is not being held there like at Ryu's request. Like, it's not a constant struggle by Ryu and the group to like bring him back and make him help them. He's willingly there, first one on the job. He's always there like to help and fight. He never gives any real trouble and lip to anyone on when it's time to go fight the Vyram. The only thing he does is be a womanizer every now and then.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I mean, he gives off the vibe that he doesn't give a crap like Marvelous, but unlike Marvelous, he gives a bigger crap in the beginning. Like, you can tell from the very beginning that he does care and he wants to be there, but he has to give some kind of guy-centric rationale for why he's there, and that rationale he gave was, I want to annoy Ryu and I want to get Kairi.
100%.
So I mean, he wants to be a hero, and so that dominant trait coming out, I think that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have more I'm going to say on this later because there's more of Guy's personality I want to touch on. But I'm holding that off until episode 13 and 14.
Okay. Fair
I think
enough.
the only other thing I wanted to say is that I thought it was weird how, like, so the way that this episode's climax works is that Aya, their mentor, is trying to like change them back with the team falling apart. It's weird how she's only trying to help Ryu because, like, in the climax, she puts Ryu in a helicopter and watches while the other Jetmen are fighting. Maybe it's because Ryu is the leader. It felt like Ryu was just getting special treatment in this episode. That was kind of annoying to me.
Yeah, I didn't care for that either, and I kind of forgot that even happened until right now.
Yeah.
I kind of did laugh a little bit of that 'cause she's like, get in the helicopter before I shoot you. I'm gonna bust in your ass.
I
if
mean,
you don't get in this helicopter.
one way to kind of look at that, if you want to try and justify it and not call it favoritism, it's that Ryu, when his lesser dominant trait comes out, is more of a risk on the field.
Yeah, I guess.
But that's so weak. I can't even believe it myself.
Yeah.
But if you want to try and justify it, there's your justification.
Because, like, we're over here fighting for our lives, and you just over here just...
No, legit.
Yeah, honestly,
in one scene, he actually almost could have been, like, critically harmed.
Yeah.
Like, there ain't no other way to put that.
but yeah, I still really like this. I'd give this episode an 8 out of 10. You guys don't have to give that unless you want to, but that's just how I want to end all the episode talks from now on. Unless you want to give a grade real quick.
I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay.
Not my favorite, but I'll give it a 6.5 just cause.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can
Pretty
see that
decent
too.
episode. All right. Next up, we got a filler episode called Hellbound Bus, which is a filler episode revolving around Kaori and Raita. In this episode, Kaori and Raita are riding a bus to go to Raita's place, and a bunch of passengers continue to get mysteriously murdered, and they have to find out who the culprit is. Ryu, Guy, and Akko don't appear until there's not even 5 minutes left in the episode. Ida doesn't appear at all. We do get a former Sentai actress Ranger in this episode. The actress who played Lou, Pink Flash, in Choujin Sentai Flashman, guest stars as a suicidal passenger in this episode. Just wanted to point out that fun bit of trivia. To kind of break the ice with this episode, I do like how the episode doesn't even waste time. I actually remember when I was watching this episode for the first time, I was really afraid that they were going to try to make it seem like a murder thing and be like, oh my god, the Virum's behind it. But no, the episode right from the starting gate makes it clear that the Virum is responsible. So I'm glad that they didn't go for that because it would have just been a really predictable plot twist. It was predictable though that the bus would turn out to be the murderer and a monster, but it's fine. I mean, that's not a huge deal. The actress, like, okay, it's cool that she played Pink Flash and everything, and I'll be watching that Sentai at some point. I'm sure she's great, but she was creepy in this episode. Without like, there's like, so what happens in this episode is that every time the bus goes through a tunnel and then it comes out, someone ends up dead. And then there's a point where the bus is about to pass through a tunnel when she's like laughing, like hysterical, like, "Yay, I'm about to die." That was just creepy as
I will say, if you were to make me give an award for creepiest character in this 10 episode segment, C would get runner up.
Oh yeah.
Again, I'm not going to hold that against her when I watch Flashman. I'm sure she was great in that Sentai, but still. I think what I like about this episode, though, is that we get a lot of great character development for Kaori. She's much more able to act on instinct and be braver. Like, there's a point where a guy is threatening the suicidal passenger with a knife, and she shows no fear and punches him. So I think Kaori gets a lot of great character development, being a lot more confident in herself in this episode. So I really like that. There's one other thing I'll say, but it's, just a small little nitpick. You guys can give your thoughts real quick before I go into that. Go ahead.
Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I actually like this episode, to be honest with you. Like the whole mystery thing. I knew that it was the bus. I think the second victim had gotten killed or whatever. I was like, because they could have easily have just made it so like the Byram on the bus could have been one of the passengers, but I figured it was probably going to be the bus anyway because of how because there was no way that someone was gonna I could end up getting murdered without somebody noticing something, or noticing somebody's habits or movements, you know what I'm saying? So I like this episode. I'm always the type of person where I always try to figure out who the murder. I kind of low key murder mysteries, and it's always been my thing to just be a part of that one day where I'm just trying to figure out who did what.
Mm-hmm.
I like this episode. The murder mystery part made it more interesting. I'll be honest, I didn't catch on to it being the bus until much later than you guys probably did. I didn't even predict it until much later.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't seem obvious to me immediately that it was the bus, but I don't know. Moving on from that, other things I like is that Kaori does get more to her own self. Like she's not playing off of Ryu or Guy, and she's kind of able to take charge a little bit with Raito. And that's partly because they're both very passive personalities compared to the others. So having them get some screen time to develop and give us more who they are, it's been nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Did anybody else want to say anything?
They should start doing stuff like this more often because I'm like I know might probably know Sentai probably like I'm not too familiar with them using the whole like murder mystery thing of who did what, but I feel like it's needed. It should be in more stuff, you know.
I mean, it's like obviously with episodes like that, it has to turn out to be a monster, but you can go the route of like who is the monster in a human disguise type of route. Like
Yeah.
one thing I found weird about this episode, and I don't know, maybe I was paying just way too much attention, but the Jet Icarus transformation in this episode, the theme for the mech is playing for the first time because we didn't get it in the previous episode. The episode where it actually debuted, I checked. We're shown like the full transformation sequence right down to like Ryu giving his hand motions. Like this is the first time they're using Jet Icarus. I don't know. That just seemed like maybe I'm just paying so much more attention to tiny stuff like that because I've seen these episodes before, but that just seemed weird. Like this is the first time they're using Jet Icarus. Nothing that
Yeah.
hurts the episode, just a weird aesthetic, I guess you could say. But I really enjoyed it for the character development we get for Kaori, so that's why I give it a 9 out of 10.
Indeed.
I'm gonna go at 8.5 on this one.
I'm gonna go with Nathan's score on this one because like I said, I really enjoyed like, figuring out who did it. You know, even
Yeah.
if the like thing was obvious, I just liked it because it was just like, oh snap! Because like one by one, the people are just like just getting offed, and it's just so interesting. And then like the scene at the end where like the girl decides that like you know what I do have something to live for, like where she had the turnaround where like she didn't want to die, she was afraid to die because she was, I guess, in a situation where like she could potentially die in a worst way possible. And then with Kaori saving her, that changed her mindset. And she's like, you know what, I have something to live for. She's like, I'm gonna continue on. I'm like, that's good. You know, that's good.
Yeah, it is. Anything
And
else
I
you
don't
guys
know
want
what
to add?
she's talking about because like she is fine. I don't know what she is out her like. Who would turn her down? Not me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just saying.
Anything else you guys want to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. 13 and 14 are a two-part episode. Basically, just it's meant to emphasize like internal issues between both the Jetman and the Byram. In part one, episode 13, Maze of Love. Uh, Basically, we get a lot of drama with the Jetman because Kaori is, making very blatant romantic advances to him. Like she cooks him a dinner for his birthday when he turns 26 and then goes out of her way to knit him a sweater. Guy confronts him on that and admits that he likes Kaori, but of course, Ryu is still reeling from losing Rie. In fact, this is the first time that he actually, starts to have like, remembering this trauma from losing her, and he rejects her, which causes a lot of drama. Um, and in basically the entire episode is just Ryu and Guy clashing over their feelings for Kaori, while they're also battling a camera monster that takes photographs and traps people inside. And a subplot is that Gray is developing feelings for Maria because he takes a liking to her classic piano music that she's able to play flawlessly, which plays a huge part in this. And of course, we don't know yet. And I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to give spoilers to the two other guys in this podcast. But we get a flashback of Ryu and Rie on a date where she plays some music. I think it's Beethoven on the piano flawlessly. And then later on, Maria is able to play that exact same song on the piano flawlessly. I'm not going to say anything, but I think people can see where this is going. But we're not going to talk about that yet because we're not getting ahead of ourselves. So yeah, I love this episode. I got a lot to say here, so I'm actually gonna let. One other thing here. We get introduced to the Jetman's new team cannon that they're gonna use throughout the show. Ryu's little doom buggy vehicle, the Jet Striker, gets modified to become the Fire Bazooka. Nothing huge, really important there. I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, aside from that, you guys can give your thoughts real quick because I got a lot to say about this episode.
I have a ton to say about these 2 episodes as well. So Anthony, if you don't, you can go first.
Okay. So with these 2 episodes, it's very interesting how there's like a love triangle, or can I even call it a love triangle? I think it's more of like a love square, kinda. I don't know, like, cause you have guy who wants to be with Kaori. You have Kaori wants to be with Ryu, but Ryu doesn't want Kaori because he's still missing his ex who's dead. And then you have freaking wait, is it safe to say that Raita likes Kaori? I want to make sure I'm not saying this.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, so
mentioned.
he basically loved her too, because I could tell from like episode 1, he was feeling her, and they did transform together, and they were, fighting together, and it's like I can see the potential there, but it, I don't know. I'm just thinking like maybe it's quite difficult because like you have the story is really good at doing like love triangles because it's similar thing happens in Dawn Bros, but I can't go into that because it's spoilers. But like yeah, it's not, thankfully it's not with other teammates. It's just but 2 Rangers do, and I'm trying to figure out their feelings for the same girl, but it's a lot more complicated than just that.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought up, I want to bring up this little thing with Anthony mentioning that Raita also has feelings for Kaori. Okay, as someone who's watched this series before, I don't like that. I really don't. And, I just want to get this little rant out of the way here. So, okay, you guys can probably figure this out already, but Raita and Kaori is not going to be a thing in the show. Like, you can probably guess with that. And I hate that Raita is part of this little love triangle because, first of all, we already had an episode that establishes that Raita has a romantic interest in his friend Satsuki. And so we already established that. And he's like jumping for joy, like a man in love, when she reveals that she has feelings for Yellow Owl and she secretly knows that he's Yellow Owl. So, like, what the hell? This is useless. And second of all, like, it doesn't impact anything. Like I said, and I'm sorry for that one little minor spoiler, but you know what? It's not that big of a deal. Like, because with how they go, like, it's not going to amount to anything. You're throwing a wrench into this little love triangle that's already more complicated. Like, why does Raita have to be part of this? Because he's a fine character by himself. He doesn't need to be in this drama stuff. Just, if there's one major flaw I have about this whole love triangle thing, it's the fact that Raita is in it when he doesn't have to be. Just
So, if you're done, I'm going to use this as a segue point, Nate.
yeah, go ahead.
So,
Sorry.
no, you're good. Thanks for doing half my work for me. Yeah, I agree. I think this is a really poor episode for Raita, but unlike you, Nathan, I don't like these 2 episodes one bit. And here's why. Even like in the first 10 episodes we watched, I found Guy's profession of love for Kaori kind of out of left field in the first 2 episodes. Like, there was no build up. He had no basis to say that he liked her except that she was pretty. And so I assumed, okay, cool. He just hits on every pretty girl. That's no big deal. And I
Yeah.
moved on from that. Like, okay, that's fine. But dedicating 2 episodes here to him trying to convince us that he has real feelings to her bugs me. He doesn't need to be doing this. It's pointless for his character. The story has no value. Like, Guy is already kind of established to be a player and a playboy. And honestly, what does he know about Kaori even like now, like 12 episodes in at this point? And the answer is not a lot. I mean, he knows she's kind and pretty, and that's really it. But they haven't spent a lot of time together, honestly. So forcing this triangle or square or whatever, it truly bugs me. If you wanted to have a romance thing right here, it should have been Kaori having a thing for Ryu. It should have been Guy making fun of Ryu because Guy is a jackass like that, and that'd be perfect character development for him. And it should have been Raita and Akko just kind of being there, not doing much. Like, that should have been what happened here. This entire square makes no sense. It's pointless, and I hate it.
Now, can I reiterate something?
Go for
Like,
it.
maybe I could like give like maybe a possible like theory that maybe Guy doesn't really truly love Kaori. Maybe he's only doing this because he's jealous of that Ryu that she likes Ryu and not him. It's like an ego thing. It's like, oh, I wish, because like we know that Guy has like this rivalry with Ryu. Maybe it's not the fact that she likes Ryu. Maybe it's like he wishes that he just wants to one up Ryu like he always does.
I mean, okay, so if it's one-upping Ryu, that's fine, and that'd be okay. But this isn't one-upping Ryu. This is him getting hurt on his own. Like, even when he's not with the other Jetman, you can tell he's really upset. And not because he's trying to one-up Ryu, but because they're trying to force him to like her, but I don't see him liking her yet. I mean, maybe later in the season they'll start dating and I'll agree with it then. But right now, no. They have no chemistry. They have no common interest. They have no anything. They're just 2 people on a team. They're acquaintances at best, maybe friends if you really want to try and push that envelope, but I'm not going to. So for this to be at this junction of the series, I don't like it.
Now, as for Kaori liking Ryu, what are your thoughts on that? Because for me, I kind of did see it maybe like in a previous episode, maybe like she liked the fact that he was pushing her or like to be a better person. Maybe that's why she fell in love with that, but I could be wrong.
No,
But
100%. I agree with that. That makes sense to me for the reason you gave, but also because he's the one that recruited her and gave her something in life more than being a spoiled rich girl.
yeah,
So I definitely am okay with Kairi liking Ryu. That's fine. That's perfect. It makes sense for Kairi's character. It makes sense for Ryu's character to decline her. What doesn't make sense is Guy. Like, Guy doesn't need this development. I'll say it again. Like, he does not need this development. He is already a phenomenal character without it. And honestly, this arc makes me lose a little bit of my interest in him as a character because it's harming him more than helping him.
and can I also iterate that like my God, they didn't turn my boy into like just a creep in this episode because like
Yeah.
I can like dude, I get the fact that Guy is a player. He's like this guy who just loves to flirt with women and all that. But you never ever force yourself on a woman like that. We don't
And-
like he
and-
lost.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
And that's when I started hating him as a character a little bit. Like I don't hate him. Let me rephrase that. I don't hate Guy, but I hated him in that instant.
Yeah, it's like we don't
It's
force
poor
ourselves on women.
character development.
Like
Because
no.
also, if you think about it, Guy up until now, okay, yeah, he's a jackass, he's aloof, he's this, that, and the other, but he has honor. It may not be honor that you can see all the time, but subtly you can tell he follows the code of honor. He's a nice guy, no pun intended. But this is like Nate. I hate to say it, but this is like somebody that writes fanfics and took over the writer's studio for like 2 episodes and made this up.
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
That's the level of writing we have in episode 13 and 14. This is fanfic level writing. It makes no sense, it's unneeded, and it's only there to pander to somebody's sip.
Yeah, I think your feelings are warranted.
So
Yeah, like this
I
is
still like. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are. No, go ahead, Anthony.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt y'all, but like I kind of had that same feeling when Riz can come up, probably can back me up on this one because he knows how I feel about this whole thing. This feels like the whole thing with Oliver Queen from Arrow.
Dude.
I hated that so much. I was like, why do they do this? Why do they have these? Okay, so people are familiar with Arrow. Arrow is basically a live action adaptation of Green Arrow from the DC Comics into a live action series on CW a couple years ago. In that show, Oliver Queen is, of course, the Green Arrow. He's going around being a vigilante and fighting crime and whatnot. He is assisted by his tech savvy hacker girl, who is called Flitzy Smoke. And as the years went on and the seasons continued, they decided to give them a romance. Like they decided to actually get them together because I think the fans wanted them to get together, and of course CW is like, let's do that. And I'm like, no. We don't need to ship everybody like that. That it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. It's just
Exactly.
And he had a better relationship with his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend. Who is of course Black Canary, but it just didn't work well with me. I was not satisfied with that.
No, 100% Anthony, that's the best comparison I've heard so far about this entire situation. Honestly, like up until now, the most I could say about Guy and Kaori before episode 13 began playing is that maybe they're friends and he sometimes flirts with her, like he flirts with everyone, and he can't flirt with Akko because that'd be kind of creepy. So sees the outlet he gets to flirt with while in the base. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he flirted with Aya. I wouldn't be surprised if he flirted with other random women. That's his stick. That's his thing. But to make him this lovesick puppy dog for only Kaori, that's fanfic writing at its best. Or pandering to people who want the sip to happen.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
So that's my rant on these 2 episodes.
And mine too, because like I said, I just do not like forced shipping. It just does not work for me.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things I like about this. I think Kaori is really cute at the beginning with how giddy she is over Ryu liking her food. She's really adorable there.
See, that's not the issue.
The cuteness is fine. That's not the issue though. Like, she's always going to be cute and adorable. That's her stick. That's her thing.
I do like Ryu's dilemma in this episode though, where like he finds where, Guy has to point out that Kaori clearly has a thing for him. And then, Guy is all like, have you ever liked a girl? And then that brings back some really traumatizing memories for him. So I think Ryu is the best character in this episode because, he, he's clearly going through something where, he rejects Kaori, but he clearly doesn't, he's sad that he has to do that, but it's because, he lost his lady love and he doesn't want to betray Rie. That's a pretty genuine thing to go through. And at the very end of the episode, he's clearly trying to advocate for Guy. Kaori's saying, hey, Ryu, you were so awesome. You saved us. And then Ryu was all like, well, I mean, Guy helped me a little bit. So it's like he's trying to help Guy out a little bit. I think Ryu is the best guy in this episode, to be honest.
So I'm going to take this one step further, Nate, and I'm going to say Ryu is the best person in the episode because he stays true as the character from start to finish up until right now. The second best person after him is Akko because Akko doesn't do anything. She's not involved, and she's doing Akko-like things that make sense. Everyone else, no, screwed him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The only other thing I'll say is that I love the dynamic that they're doing between Gray and Maria. There's not that much dialogue. And I also love, I mentioned that whole piano flashback thing. What I love is that the writers aren't trying to, spell everything out for you. They just, they don't do something where, when Maria is playing the piano, they try to make some weird edits to make it look similar. It's very subtle foreshadowing, and I love it.
Yeah.
I don't want to give any other spoilers, though, because neither of you guys have seen the rest of this Sentai.
Okay, moving on then.
I'm kind of figuring out what the deal is, but I don't want to say anything either. So,
what would you give for the rating of this episode, though, both of you? Out of 10.
I give it a 7. It would have been an 8 if everybody wasn't, being, if some people weren't being either creepy or B just acting totally just not out of character, but just I'll say out of character, but just acting just off,
So I'm gonna be the mean one of the group. I'm gonna give this a 3 or a 4.
Wow. Oof.
This to me is almost at the same tier of how I felt about Takeru in the early episodes of Senkinser. That's how angry I am at these 2 episodes.
I'd probably give it a 7. Nothing special.
Like I said, it would have been higher up had they just not done that. And then you have the whole thing with her being caught off guard like that. It's what? And then I don't understand is why do they transform when they're dealing with monsters like that? I mean, I get they're being ambushed. I understand that, but there be times in episodes where I'm just they really could have henshin right then and there. I think what it is that maybe Nate, if can you verify that in some older Sentai do they just not transform it in some older Sentai?
Yeah,
not as often. No,
they don't do that much.
Okay.
Because I'm a tangent here for a quick second. It's like in Mighty Morphin and some of the Zordon era. You have a lot of civilian fight scenes, right?
That's what I'm noticing too. Yeah.
More civilian fight scenes than you have ranger scenes. But as you get further into time, Gokai, maybe even the newer stuff like Zenkaiser, and on the ranger side of things, Dino Fury and all them, they henshin morph almost immediately. There is no limited putties and try and take them out myself. No, they have to henshin immediately. But in the older stuff, before and around Mighty Morphin and Zero Ranger, they definitely fight more in civilian fights.
I think it's because henshining is considered to be the beginning of the episode's climax, because usually when they henshin, they'll play the theme song of the show. They even did that in Power Rangers in a handful of episodes where they would morph, and then you would hear the "Go Power Rangers" while they're battling against the putties and everything. So,
Well, so one thing I think impacts this is that in the early episodes of all of this, like all Sentai and all Ranger,
mhm.
the runtimes are a lot smaller. So
Yeah.
I think getting those 5-10 minutes later give more room for like Ranger fight scenes and all that.
Mhm.
But along the way, they lost their idea of civilian fights to be as prevalent as they had been in the past.
Yep.
And that's because they're trying to market the toys more as you get further in. I mean, in Jetman, you don't really get the sense that they're trying to market toys. They're trying to tell a story. But, Senken, Gokai, Go Buster, all the other newer Sentai, they are heavily marketing a toy.
Yep.
And likewise for the Rangers in this thing.
Mhm. Do we want to move on to the next one now, guys?
Yeah,
Yeah.
before I start oh wait, I have one more rant to give. There is one thing I want to mention about Ryu that we could have done a lot better here.
Uh-huh.
So we could have had this two-parter with him dealing more with his grief.
Yeah.
And that would have made this episode go from my 3 to like a 9. Almost immediately.
There'll be an episode that revolves more around that grief much later. You'll
Yeah,
definitely enjoy that one.
but see that loses some of the impact because if it's much later than episode 20, I'm kind of spoiling here for our audience, but if it's much later than episode 20, then it starts to feel a bit more out of place. Like he lost his fiance episode 1. He doesn't really mention her. He has an episode in the first 10 bats where he's being marketed off to another girl by his grandma. And that was a perfect time as well to bring up, Rhea and his grief, but they don't ever mention it at all.
And
I would
And
I
argue
don't
that
really
it's
want
more
to like
because of his.
filler.
You can go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
Sorry, man. I was like, I don't want people to think that oh, it's just a filler that shouldn't really be canon to the story. But at the same time, it's like they still should have just brought it up regardless
no, they should
because
have because that's stronger storytelling at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah, like
And
that
I
shouldn't be
mean,
an excuse.
they're dropping the ball heavily with character development and with keeping things consistent from episode to episode.
Yeah, but I would argue that him just now remembering Rie is kind of within character of him because like he's a soldier and a Skyforce officer and he's been trained not like even he himself, he says that we can't put our personal feelings before everyone else. So he's like because of his training, he's like repressed all this like grief that he has in regards to Rie and he
He's
briefly
still
remembers
human
it.
though.
Yeah, I know, but like so and that's where him remembering Rie and getting all emotional like this is kind of holding his emotions in check. I think it's more that he's grieving over Rie, but for right now, at least for now, I'm not saying that it's going to happen forever, but at least for now he's managing to keep his emotions in check because of his training. Like, but at least just for now. It's a very delicate situation, though, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it. I just feel like yes, there's training. Yes, he's a good soldier. Yes, he's like Captain America and all the others, but even Captain America has like bouts of I don't like that I lost Peggy. I don't like that I can't be with my one true love. Like, that's a thing. And when something big like his grandma bringing up this random girl, um, that was a good time to bring up his emotion. Then, like that would have a good point for him to break from soldier routine and
Like from a
delve into it.
come on. I mean, you can say what you will about like maybe he wants to keep that from his other teammates because he feels like that would, I don't know, deter them from something or whatever. I may let that slide, but like his own grandma he could at least told his own grandma because like what I'm
Yeah.
saying, like he did, and the fact that he doesn't even bring her like it just think it's
There's
weird
no
because
flashback.
yeah, like the thing is that they could have easily and maybe had the grandma like okay, why is it that when in the first episode, yeah, we introduced to his girlfriend, whatever. Why isn't that his family doesn't know about her, or he doesn't send postcards to his grandma saying, "Hey, I met this girl, blah blah blah, we're in love," that type of thing, or like at least call her and let her know, and then she may find out what happens to her, and then that's probably the reason why she's trying to try to set her grandson up with somebody else because he feels like he needs somebody else to kind of get over his girlfriend. That's at least something I would do if I'm writing the story and I
Yeah.
figure, oh, my grandma, oh well, the grandma in story is being introduced. Let me try to get her to set him up, not just because he's 30, he wants like have a girlfriend or whatever because he's married or whatever. That just seems too jokey, haha, funny. Maybe have it to where like I want to set my grandson up with someone because he lost someone very important to him, and I don't want him to keep thinking about dwelling in the past. I want him to move on and maybe potentially find somebody that can make him happy, and he has to worry about losing her or whatever.
Yeah. Now, I will ask you this. Would you have been opposed to having this two-part episode occur much earlier, like before the grandma episode?
I would have been
Uh,
fine with that.
I've been fine with it, but like I
I
said,
think I think that's better storytelling if we had this before,
yeah,
because then it could kind of make sense. Like, okay, he's dealt with some of the stress, he's kind of let it out a little bit, so it's okay to not mention it to the grandma. It's okay to kind of not mention it when something like that happens. But
yeah,
you know, it's more to question why does he lock up here but not there?
right.
And that's the point I'm trying to drive home here. I hope you understand that.
It's almost if like not saying the writers are just forgot how he his grief, but like I don't know, maybe because like whoever is directing each episode just was like they're not consistent with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a possibility depending on who wrote every episode as well, like and what they know and what they're keeping up with. But there should have been a cohesion between all the writers to keep everything consistent, you know?
Well,
Because
that's the problem
And
with early Sentai.
yeah, it
well,
definitely
no,
is, and I'm glad it's
like
something that we fixed in later Sentai.
we still like the show. It's just we're just seeing the small flaws in it. You know what I'm saying? Like no Sentai is perfect.
Oh yeah, I'm just nitpicking like hell right now. I'm not like actually hating on Jetman.
Yeah, me too. It's just that's just like I don't want people to think or Nate to think that we're just like trying to find like we're trying to bag on Jetman and we're trying to find ways not to like it. No, we still like it. We
Yeah,
just notice
Yeah, of course.
things like this, and it's just something we have to like talk about because if we don't talk
yeah.
about it, then we can't really say it's flawless.
Well, I'd be
Of
doing
course.
a really bad job as my job as a reviewer if I don't mention this.
Yeah,
Yep.
Because, part of what we do here with the Anime Secrets Network is we review stuff and give critical opinions based off of our experiences with the medium and also what we're seeing in the medium.
Mhm.
And so this is very much in line, like with us critiquing the crap out of it, but still enjoying it.
yeah.
But that's all I had, Nate.
Same.
Nothing else to say.
Cool. Then onwards to episode 15 and more filler.
Yep. We have 2 filler episodes now. Episode 15, it's an Akko-centric episode called High School Student Warrior. This is one of those episodes, basically, it's a typical episode where, Ranger has to constantly be leave to go on Ranger duties, and their best friend is annoyed because they don't know that she's a ranger and blah blah blah. In this case, this episode, Akko it has a strained relationship with her best friend Kyoko because she constantly has to leave for her Jetman duties, and at the same time, the Jetmen are battling against a monster that harnesses energy by stealing people's voices, and he does this to both Akko and Kyoko. Right off the bat, I want to say this. I love this monster's voice. He sounds like Goldar from Mighty Morphin if he was speaking Japanese.
Dude,
Yeah.
It was,
dude, you took my opinion from me, and I don't know how I feel about that.
yeah. I'm glad that everybody else sees that. That was hilarious to me. I wish he was voicing Grifforzer in Jew Ranger instead of the other guy. And I don't mean any disrespect to that voice actor, but yeah, he sounds like Goldar. The only thing I want to say here is that okay, so this episode establishes that Akko has a love for singing and wants to do some of her own singing when she grows up. That's kind of a recurring plot point in some episodes for the remainder of the show. I think it's weird though because maybe you guys think I'm wrong, but I always got the feeling that Akko is more of a tomboy type of girl, like someone who's someone who's a little bit more athletic and into just kind of a tough tomboy. So, and again, and I apologize if this sounds, don't take this the wrong way, but she just never struck me as the kind of girl that would have a passion for music and singing. So it just seems weird.
I actually think this is really good development for her.
Okay.
I don't mind that she's a singer. I don't mind if she loves music. Honestly, this gave Akko something more to being random high school girl that is a Jetman now. Like up until now, I've been complaining about how I don't like Akko's character development, but this is something I liked. I don't necessarily like Akko much more than before, but I definitely respect seeing more depth given to her than was given to her before.
What about you, Anthony?
Like this episode, it was like a nice, cute focus episode for her. Um, I didn't hate it, but like I said, I think I'm starting to see why people why you guys think this like she's y'all's least favorite. I'm starting to see that now. I'm just like, yeah, she's not really got anything really going for her, really.
She doesn't. I mean, I okay. I know we recorded the first 10 episodes last week, and I know it's been a week since then, but I honestly can't even name what her character development episodes were in the last 10. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a blank. I remember nothing of her character, and that's bad because I'm actively watching this, but like, nothing of her character is interesting enough to stick, and that's the problem.
Yeah. I think the best part of this episode is when Raita dresses up in drag so that they can lure the monster.
Dude, Raita
It's
made
hilarious.
this episode like an 8.5 or 9 for me because of that.
Yeah. One thing that always I found weird about this episode is that we see Akko get called away for her Jetman duties 3 times, but we're only shown what she's doing once. And we never get a voiceover on what's going on her communicator. So it's like, can we get some explanation for what she's doing? Like, were the Vyram attacking with their foot soldiers? Was there a training session? It just feels really contrived.
It didn't matter though, because the point isn't what she's doing in this episode. The point is she's having to leave her school and her friends and her extracurricular activities at the moment's notice to go do her Jetman duty. It doesn't matter if he's going to go fight Devirum or go Wasted Zord. Like, it's the same thing.
Okay,
I
fair
think
enough.
what it is,
I can go with that.
it's supposed to highlight the fact that, remember, because she's the only Jetman in the team that's still in high school.
Yeah.
So more or less, we're just trying to get like a glimpse of what a life is like for a young teenager who's a superhero, and
Yeah.
she has to go off and fight crime or whatever and save the world because and it's supposed to highlight the fact that oh yeah, like I gotta save the world and I gotta leave to do my heroing thing, and because that was a common trope for Mighty Morphin, especially Mighty Morphin and any other Power Rangers season that has high school Rangers in it. So
Yeah.
But I still think this episode was solid. I give it a 7 just because we get something with Akko.
yeah, I think I give it a 7.2 as well.
I'm giving it an 8.5 because they're doing something with Akko that's respectable and I like it. Plus, Raita was in drag and that's pretty funny to me.
Yeah, right.
Dude, Raita might become my favorite Jetman by the end of all this.
And that's cool. I like that. Raita needs to give some bigger men representation in Super Sentai.
Yeah.
All right, next up, did you want to say one thing, Anthony, before we move on?
No, we're good.
Okay. All right, next up, episode 16, Paper Uprising, which is a filler episode, and I guess it's kind of a Ryu episode, although not really, because Ryu doesn't really have much character in this episode. This episode, the Jetman battle against a paper-themed Dimension Beast that can bring drawings to life, and Ryu befriends this mysterious little girl who turns out to be the spirit of the dead daughter of a famous artist. I'm actually just going to give my thoughts really quick just because it's going to be short and sweet and to the point. This episode was boring. I don't remember anything from this episode. In this rewatch, I honestly forgot that this episode even existed. The only thing that I kind of liked was when Guy briefly was telling Ryu to take the girl to safety while the Jetmen were fighting. Kind of a nice, noble moment for Guy. I wish Raita was in the spotlight instead of Ryu, because spoiler alert here, guys, none of these episodes that we're reviewing today in this video have Raita as the central character. So I wish that Raita got the spotlight instead, if only just so he could get a little bit of a spotlight. That's a complaint, but
Well, Raita also fits better than Ryu for this story anyway.
yeah. So yeah, this episode is just boring.
But
I'll give my rating after you guys are done.
I'm gonna echo Nathan here. This episode is boring. I didn't care about it. Moving on to the next episode, please.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the episode was boring, but I think it was pretty sad in my personal opinion, because the fact that this man had lost his daughter, and
Yeah, that's a sad thing. That's emotional, but
Yeah, but it's a sad scene. It's emotional. It's well done emotion, but it doesn't help that it is filler. That
right,
end of the day, nothing in this episode mattered.
Story probably would have been made more sense. I get what you guys are saying, but maybe I saw the episode a bit differently the way you guys felt, but that's just me though.
Yeah.
I give it a 4. Just meh.
I'm gonna go with a 5.
I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay.
Okay, that's cool.
We averaged out to a 5, so I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah, next up, we get another two-parter. Episode 17, The Revived Empress, and episode 18, Guy Dies. Wow, you're definitely giving spoilers.
I am gonna say something here real quick.
Uh-huh.
I've watched Gokai. When they had the episode title Flash Guy Dies, I was like, no. It's 30 episodes too early for that.
Of course.
Right, it's the same
So
thing.
I was
That's
like,
a horrible title, guys. Come on.
well, I mean, they couldn't possibly have known that, 25 years later, they'd have Gokaiser confirm he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a spoiler for the audience.
In this two-parter, Juza, who is the Empress of the Vyram, whom everybody thought was dead, arrives in the front dimension and takes control of the Vyram. She begins attacking humans with a spell that causes crystals to grow out of their bodies, and she harnesses the pain and suffering of the humans and use it as energy so that she can slowly cause this egg wrapped around her to grow until it'll hatch a powerful monster called Semimaru. Guy gets hit with her spell while protecting Kaori in episode 17. As it continues in episode 18, Guy, spoiler alert, he ends up dying. Everybody ends up dying with what happens with Juza because, the crystals that grow out of their body, they completely turn into crystals. And Guy ends up going through with that. And I'll talk more about Guy's moments in a little bit. Radiguet, meanwhile, in episode 17, actually turned on Juza and was banished to Earth to live as a human with no memory of his past. And most of episode 18 is revolving around him living like a normal life with this woman that falls in love with him. But then he regains his memory and helps the Jetman defeat Juza and not helps her, but he stabs Juza in the back and then the Jetmen finish her off before he kills her. And he steals her egg and takes the Semimaru beast, which is still just a baby, for himself. The first thing I want to say, just giving my thoughts on this episode, is that... So I'll give more on the character stuff in a little bit after everybody else has given their opinions. From a plot perspective, though, I think Juza gets killed off way too soon. I think without the plot that Juza plays in this episode, she's just a slightly more powerful and glorified monster of the day. I think the best way that what you could do is that have her come in, and she's accompanied by a vizier or a bodyguard type of character, and that guy is the monster of the day that the Jetmen defeat. And her taking over the Vyram is a temporary change. And then and it does end with her banishing Radiguet and he's going around in his human form. And then maybe have I don't know, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 episodes of her being the leader of the Vyram and just establishing that Gray, Torin, and Maria don't like her. And, they want to establish a coup while at the same time Radiguet is enjoying his life with this girl, but continues to have flashbacks. And then have the next multi-parter episode revolve around Radiguet returning and having them kill off Juza, in a coup attempt. And then maybe have the two-parter after that revolve around him, using Semimaru. I don't know. I don't like how they brought back Empress Juza just to kill her off 1 episode later. She's basically just a glorified monster of the day in that regard, and that shouldn't be the case given the big role that she supposedly has in the Vyram.
Right.
So I'm gonna just say real quick, when Zuza came on the scene, she was kind of becoming my favorite Vyram villain we had. I enjoyed her character a lot. And for her to die that quickly felt kind of insulting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To her as a character, her threat level was non-existent. Her coming back meant nothing. And if you have your generals kind of leading your army and you're thought to be dead, and they're doing the best they can on their own while infighting's occurring, and then you come back and everyone's like, "Oh, hey, our Empress is back." You would kind of expect her to do something and have a bigger role and last longer than an
Yeah.
episode and a half. She didn't even last a full 2 episodes, honestly.
It's
So,
funny because I remember when like on the Jetman's like page for the SuperSentai.com, she's listed under the main villain section. Like I remember once I was reading like a blog post where someone did like a list of like the monsters of the day for Jetman, and Juza is listed in that little list. Like that's when I realized that she's basically just a glorified monster of the day, and that's really annoying.
Yeah. Like,
But no, go ahead, Riz.
I was just gonna reiterate, like, they did Zuza completely wrong, and again,
Definitely.
this is the writers not knowing how to write characters well in the 90s. Like, they had an insanely good potential for plot here, and they squandered it for no reason, apparently.
And I would have been cool with them like I don't think they should have kept Juza around for the entire series. I would
Oh,
have been cool
absolutely.
with them keeping her around for just like one, like I don't know, Jetman seems to have a thing where it's like you have a multi-parter episode and a couple of fillers, then another a multi-part episode that changes some dynamics, then a couple of fillers, then another multi-parter that changes the dynamic, then a couple of fillers, and etc. So I'm fine with like him being the leader of the Byram for like a couple of fillers, and then the next story arc we get like a coup attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, moving on to my thoughts on the two-parter as a whole, can they stop messing up Guy's character?
Oh yeah.
Please. Like, okay, there's a part in the beginning of, what is it, 17? Where they're all at the mall, and Kaori's looking at bathing suits with Akko, and the guys are just kind of being bored. And Akko asks, "Is that bathing suit to impress Ryu?" And see, Kaori gets really embarrassed and says no, and then puts it back. Guy hears all this, grabs her by the arm really forcefully, and drags her off to the elevator to talk privately. But he was very, very rapey.
Dude, I thought I was the only one that was thinking that. I was like, because
Mm,
as soon as her because Howard's body language gave me like, God, is he gonna force himself on me again? I'm like, that's the vibe I got from it. I was like, okay, this
This
is
is this is make at this point.
Hang on, a side note, real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt. That shopping scene was actually funny because Raita complains that you should never go shopping with women. I advocate for that just as someone, I don't know, shopping with women can be annoying. And in the unlikely event that my girlfriend can hear this, please disregard everything that I said. I love you.
What's wrong, Nate? You don't want to shop with your pumpkins?
All right, moving on.
I just
Before we
wanted to say
embarrass
that
Nate
real
and
quick.
Jim
Can I
more.
say one thing first? During for this two-parter.
What?
Can I say one more thing about this two-parter, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still talking about it, but you can definitely take the floor for a minute.
Okay, so y'all are gonna probably think I'm kind of weird for thinking this, but like that whole scene with like Ragged dealing with that like that girl that he was like I guess sort of seeing, and like he went back to his old ways, and you know he basically was like, oh, I'm love. I ain't all about love. I'm all about being evil and whatnot. And he sequentially quote unquote kills her. I kind of bust out laughing because I'm like, there's no way he actually murdered that girl. I think what happened was because the way it sounded like he was actually having like a like a not an illusion, but like he was just I guess daydreaming. He was just like in his mind thinking that, you know, I don't really care about this girl. I thought I did, but I don't really care about this girl anymore because in the episode where he reveals himself to be, you know, his true self, she got scared. She was like, that's creepy. I can't be. I'm scared. Like I don't want to be around that." And
Yeah.
she just went home and just didn't think about him anymore. Because
So
I think people probably assumed that he like up and killed the girl, but the way it was shot, it just didn't seem like that was the case. because we could have seen a body. Like, there's no way you can just zap somebody like that and there's no body, or like he didn't cut her down. He just zapped her. Like, no, that just seemed kind of weird to me.
I don't think he killed her. Yeah, no.
I do think Radigat's whole arc in this episode, though, is what makes it for me, but I'll talk about that a little bit more later. You can
Yeah,
go ahead with.
I want to go
It
back
should
to my thing before Anthony cut me off from it. I definitely am not happy with the direction they're taking Guy's character right now. This is not who I thought Guy would be. He shouldn't be portrayed as this aggressive, let me grab this lady by her hand, drag her into an elevator, and then force my way onto her to make her like me as a person and want to date me. Like, he's a player, yes. He loves to have women, yes. But he's not a creep.
Yeah.
He has a code of honor. You can see it very clearly in the episodes where this is not the plot. And dear God, I didn't like how Raito once again is part of this damn square, and he's like, "Ho ho, I don't have any chance of being with Kaori, but I'm gonna at least try and protect her." I'm like, protect her from what? You're not
What?
gonna be able to protect her from anyone. You're Raito. You're not. Your threat factor is not a thing here. So again, they're messing up Raita and Guy, and I'm not happy with this at all. Like, Raita has enough good character development without the square, and Guy should not be in the square to begin with. Um, but going back to the Radagate stuff, because that's also very interesting, and there's a story that you'll need to hear about Riz's adventure through these 2 episodes. So, when episode 18 began, and I saw the title Guy Dies, my first thought was, okay, if I'm misunderstanding Gokai, and Guy truly does die here for real, who's Black Condor for the remainder of the Sentai? Are they going to be a 4-man team? That'd be kind of weird. Or will they find a new Black Condor to replace him? And if they did, who would it be? And at one point, my mind was like, it'd be kind of cool if Radicate became Black Condor because he has no idea who he really is.
That actually would have been a good storyline, actually. I would have actually enjoyed that.
It would have made the story so much stronger to have Radicate be Black Condor for like even an episode or 2.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that freaking and like decades later, where they have a villain become a ranger, they actually do it in my least favorite Sentai, which is Chokuger. Dang it!
Yeah.
I do think, like, one of the reasons why another reason why I wish that they had Juza stick around for a while is because I really think that we should have had more of Radiguet as a human, because I don't know. I want to see more of that side to him, and I think his moments make this episode because I don't know. It's not that he's a complex villain, but well, okay, maybe he does have some complexities in that we're shown a different side to him, but ultimately, it is genuinely sad. Like, you guys can say whether you think that he literally killed that woman or not, but what they're implying is that if he did actually see that woman, he would have killed her. It's really sad to see him, since he and that woman were genuinely in love. It's sad to see him turn go back to being a monster, and it's pretty powerful writing from the writers, I think.
It is. It's really good writing, and honestly, the Radicate subplot makes this 2-parter something I like. Because Storytell isn't something I like because of Guy and Wright's involvement.
I do want to say, Guy in part 2, when he is about to die, that's actually really important because I think it plays a huge part in the last episode. And you guys can remember it or not because I'm going to bring it up I'm going to bring it up myself when we talk about the last episode, but it's just really important. But I don't want to give spoilers.
I actually think in the latter half, Guy's character becomes more like who he should be.
Mm-hmm.
But Guy in episode 17, I want to reach through the screen and slap him. Because that's not who he is. That's not who he's written to be.
I want to strangle him.
Yeah, like the guy at the end where he's telling Kyori, I'm like, I'm dying, I don't want to go alone and all that stuff. That's the guy that I want to have remembered as like the good character. Like that's the parts of the guy I like.
Mm-hmm.
I do want us to remember how everything that happened, while he was dying, before he died, because I think it plays a huge part in his character development in the last episode, but I don't want to skip ahead of myself.
That's fine. We'll wait. Carrying on.
I give this two-parter. All the Radicat moments just make this episode for me. And again, I wish that they didn't kill off Jusa so early, but they did. And I mean, I could just deal with it. I'd still give it a 9 out of 10.
Anthony, what are you giving it?
You know what? I'll give it a 9 out of 10 too, because the only reason I'm not giving it a full 10, it's really just the fact that it's I agree with you, Riz. It's honestly Guy. Guy needs to not be so hung up on this girl.
He shouldn't be hung up on this girl, period. Like if Kyrie even had a semblance of interest in him, then okay, cool, he can be interested in her, but this is really terrible story writing and character development for him.
It's giving off that you guys okay. I'm gonna go on like a small little tangent about the music. By the way, you guys are from. I'm not pretty sure you guys are familiar with this, but maybe you are, but I just could be wrong. If I'm wrong, okay, call me out, whatever. How many people? How many of y'all are y'all remember that song "Obsessed" by Mariah Carey?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay, you never heard it. Okay, so like.
I don't remember it, but I know it
Made a
exists.
music video that kind of like implied that Eminem was kind of obsessed with her or whatever, and that song came to mind when it came to Guy being obsessed with Kyori. I was just like, why are you so obsessed with her? Because the song literally goes, "Why you so obsessed with me, boy? I wanna know." That's how the song goes.
That makes sense, and honestly, like, it's depressing that we have to be like that. This is the reference we have to make for Guy,
Yeah.
because it's hard for me to. It's hard for me to not oscillate towards Guy's hot garbage like I do with Takaru. I'm trying really hard here not to go that route, but his character development is garbage right now, and I'm not a fan. I like his character a lot, but I don't like the direction his character development is going right now.
Right.
And they better course correct soon, or in my opinion, will stick and he'll be hot garbage. And Anthony, no, and Patrick and Nathan will be given the glory of being correct about who I call hot garbage this season, but when I call it, they'll be wrong on.
Well, I hope that's not the case.
Because y'all were saying I'd be calling him hot garbage in episode 1, but no, he's turning into this right now, and I'm hoping to course correct soon because I want to like this guy. He's really cool, but I can't support a character with that kind of development.
Like he just stops.
What
screwing
rating,
up
would
so-
what rating would you give the episode, Anthony?
Hmm?
What rating would you give the episode, Anthony?
He gave it a 9, right?
I give it 9. Yeah, I give my thoughts already.
What about you, Riz?
I would give this a 6.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough.
it's a 6 because I love the Radagast subplot and I love Zuzo, but the score is a testament to how much I enjoy Guy as a character and how much I'm annoyed at the poor storytelling in part 1.
Okay, fair enough.
So, if you didn't have if you didn't have that little subplot in the beginning, I would probably give it a 9. But because
Okay.
of that subplot in the beginning, I'm giving it a 6.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we get 2 more filler episodes to close this thing out. Now, I do want to say that throughout these 2 episodes and one more episode that we're going to take a look at the beginning of the next podcast, it's a recurring plot element that Radiguet is keeping Semimaru, the baby monster, and it's slowly growing into like the big beast that it'll eventually become.
Yeah.
So just a brief thing that's always acknowledged. Episode 19 is called I Can See. It's a filler episode that revolves around Kaori, where a fortune teller under the influence of the latest Dimension Beast gives Kaori a prediction that she will die in the very near future, and Kaori is driven insane and is left paralyzed with fear, and she's too scared to even transform into a white swan. I think this is standard, not really special.
This is typical Super Sentai plot.
Yeah.
I have no strong feelings on it either way. Like, the only thing I can say here is that Kaori's character improves a little bit.
Mhm.
She hasn't moved up in the ranking from last time just yet, but she's inching out of like spot 4, in my opinion.
I think the only thing I remember from this episode is a little bit at the end when all the Jetmen have shown up dressed up in like, high class clothes for like some party at Kaori's house, and Raita is trying to get closer to Kaori, and Guy is giving him this like, what are you trying to do? And then he tries to push Raita down just before they do the freeze frame. I thought that was funny.
It was funny. It's also, this is development I'm okay with for Guy and Raita. Like, Guy in this scene, yeah, he's still being an ass, but that's his stick, and I'm okay with that. I like that. But Raita, I don't know. Like, the entire idea of him having to have a crush on Kaori to begin with kind of bugs me.
Yeah, because he already has a crush on somebody else.
Yeah, what
Yeah,
happened to
exactly. But I thought it was an okay episode. I give it a 6 out of 10. It's good. Not great, but just good.
I will make one other comment. Do you remember when I mentioned that the former, what was it, Flash Pink?
Pink Flash, yeah.
Pink Flash got a runner-up for creepiest person in his 10th block episodes. The fortune teller gets the winner award for that.
Oh yeah,
100%.
So yeah, I just wanted to give the award for creepiest person in this 10-episode block we're watching, and it goes to the fortune teller in this episode because, dear God, that was kind of nightmare fuel.
What rating would you guys give for this episode?
I already gave it a 6.
Oh, okay. Anthony?
give it a 6.5.
Okay.
Trying to be nicer than we are. I see how it is.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to be
Yeah.
nice here. It's like,
Okay, Guy, you're trying to one up us.
I did like the fact that she was like, actually having like doubts because like at first she was like, I don't believe in fortune teller like fortune like that or whatever. But then this stuff started to happen. She's like kind of freaking out, and it was just different. It was just different. I don't know. I maybe just felt differently about the episode than you guys did. It was an okay episode. I'll give it 6.5 because of that one development alone with her. But other than that, I'll see what y'all see. It just was another way episode.
Okay, then we have our last episode, Marriage Vacuum Cleaner. This is a guy-centric filler episode where a little girl approaches Guy for help when her older sister falls victim to a spell from a vacuum cleaner dimension. Sorry, someone just fell over. Dimension beast that sucks all the love and emotions out of people, and her sister abruptly abandons her fiance and her because of that. I want to say right now, I think this is probably my favorite episode of this batch. I think this episode is fantastic because someone like Guy befriending a little girl who he ends up really caring for is great character development. We see a softer side for him. Just the way that he meets her too shows some subtle nobility development since like he goes out of his way to stop her from getting hit by a truck at the beginning of the episode. I love how this episode is dedicated to Guy, but it doesn't feel the need to bring up or even address his relationship with Kaori, and it's not like this episode didn't have an opportunity to do that because there was literally a point in this episode where Guy stages a fake wedding to lure the monster out. You could have had him do that with Kaori to subtly address that relationship, but they don't. They have him do it with Akko. I'm happy that they did that. That you don't have to have character episodes, bringing up alternate story arcs. So I love that. Great job from the writers. That his transformation in one-on-one fight with the monster is awesome, and I think Guy's relationship with this girl is adorable, and it ends on the perfect note with Guy, where like the girl is all like, "Oh, Guy, I wish I was older so I could date you," and then Guy is all like, if you were totally older, I would date you," or something like that. That's Guy. This is classic Guy. I love this episode.
Okay, I'm gonna go real quick because I'll be really simple. And
I'm of course thinking, don't pay me no mind because I'm always thinking the negative things.
so I'm gonna be quick and simple on this one. Yes, best episode in the Bats. This episode is one of the reasons why when I finish watching the Bats that I will not call him hot garbage yet. Because he had phenomenal development. This is a well-written story. And this is the guy I was wanting from the beginning. And this is the guy that we got. So I'm happy that we're finally getting it. And I hope the other guy never appears again like that. Because then I can write it off and say, oh, he was on some Kool-Aid or something, and then he had a bad reaction. But yeah, no, this episode made Guy not lose his respect in my book.
And is it mostly like the issue that you have? Just a question, like, is it the fact that like he's doing a lot of these like desperate things with Kaori, like throwing himself at her, trying to kiss her, or like pulling her away into an elevator?
No, that's part of it. But the reason I don't like it, like, okay, let me explain why I don't like the Guy development for most of these episodes. There's no build-up, dude. Like, from the beginning, there's no build-up. It's automatically Guy gets on the team and is like, "Oh, hey, you're cute. I want to bang you. Let's be a thing." And that was fine. That was perfect. That was Guy. But then to make him like pursue this in the way that he did and break from being Guy, that's what I don't like.
Yeah.
Like if he had like mentioned in the what was it, episode 13 or whatever, the first time I had issues with Guy, if he had just mentioned like, "Hey, I have a thing for you," but he didn't go overboard, and then they developed off of that, like, yeah, Guy's starting to fall for her slowly, and then he started doing the crazy stuff that he did, that'd been fine because there's build up. But to go from 0 to 90 with no build up in the middle is terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, I can understand that.
Like, it just doesn't make sense to me that he likes her beyond thinking she's cute. Like, it doesn't gel. It doesn't make sense here.
Okay. Uh, Fair enough. Anthony, you should give your thoughts on this episode. I'm sorry I didn't give you a chance before I asked Riz his question.
No, good, you're good. Um, this actually was an okay episode. I did like the fact that it was a guy focused episode. Um, I don't know how maybe I'm just thinking things a little bit differently, you guys. It just seems kind of weird that it just seems kind of like off-putting that this young girl said like, oh yeah, like I understand that they're not actually going to like thinking that she wants to get with him or whatever, like because he's older or whatever, and then like it's not meant to be creepy, but it just came out as creepy to me personally.
I mean, okay, so let me address that from my perspective. The way the girl said it, guy being a noble guy wouldn't just be like, no, I don't want to date you. You're not worthy or you're not attractive. That would break her. So he chose a safe route and instead said, yeah, if you're 10, 15 years older, that'd be a thing, but you're not.
Right.
He didn't want to hurt her and like cause emotional damage. He wanted to let her down easy.
I understand that.
And that I feel is more noble and more in line with his character. He can be, he can be a womanizer, he can be a playboy, but end of the day, he has a heart, and this proves it.
I'd give this a 10 out of 10, honestly. I have nothing negative to say about it.
What about you, Anthony?
Give it an 8, definitely a high 8.
I'm gonna give this a 9. There's nothing I didn't dislike, but also it didn't wow me to the same level, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I gave it an 8.
I just appreciate how they don't even try to bring up his relationship with Kaori. And again, they had a perfect opportunity with that fake wedding, and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
So I
Thank God.
just really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So we've mostly talked about the character development of Guy a little bit. We're going to move on to the other analysis of other things really quick. Well, first of all, what do we think of the villains here? Like, I think in this batch, everyone except Torin has gotten a little bit of a moment to shine because with Radigan, he has the whole character arc of him turning human, and but then going back, and then we got a little bit of a thing going on with Gray and Maria that was addressed in 13 and 14. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
My thoughts here are that Zuzo got screwed.
Oh,
severely.
100%.
My other thing is that I like Radiget's character quite a bit, and his story arc in these last couple episodes has been really fun. Gray is a very interesting character that I want to see more of, especially his dynamic with Maria, and given Nathan's not so subtle commentary, I'm gonna guess that there's gonna be a lot more Maria and Gray stuff in the future. So I'm happy for that. I Who did I miss? I feel like I missed one of them.
We don't have to talk about Torin that much. He didn't really do anything in any of these episodes.
Yeah, Torin didn't do much. And I'm trying to think, was there anyone else I missed? I don't think so.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, that's my thoughts on them. I will say before we get to the Ranger analysis, though, Aya is very useless.
I think. What do you think, Anthony?
You said who's useless?
Aya, the commander.
I mean, after a while, I kind of see what y'all mean now because I'm like, she hasn't really done much since her initial episodes. Well, not her initial episode, but her initial introduction episodes. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, she'll get. Spoiler alert. She might get a little bit more of a moment to shine here and there, but I can see why she's kind of useless in this batch.
I
I can see
mean,
what you're saying.
so like the way I envision Aya is that she's a mentor figure, like not to the same extent like a Zordon or whatever, but more like a Kruger, and she doesn't really fill that role too well.
Yeah, I can see
And
that.
so I just kind of feel like this is wasted potential for her. Like, why even have her character in the background? She's not going to do anything, you know?
Hmm.
So,
What do you think of the villains, Anthony?
I like them so far. Like, I think I like Gray because like Gray is like slowly, like almost like not saying he's coming human, but he's having more slowly having emotions of a human. Especially with the whole thing with like listen to Maria's piano, and he's like, I just want to hear you play again because you really know how to play a piano. And I like listening to that.
But I think we can all agree that Empress Juza got screwed.
Oh,
dude,
definitely,
dude,
definitely. I was like, really? Oh, really? This is how y'all end it like this?
it annoys me that Juicer doesn't come back later on somehow.
Juicer could have easily been like an Akamaru type of character.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
she's
I
not
do
there
feel that
permanently, but
I do
she
feel
could have
like if
done more.
Jetman were written more today, she would have been a permanent change.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think she'd been like a surprise final villain if you think about
Yeah.
it. They really wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm. To move on to the Ranger stuff, we don't have to talk about Guy since we've already kind of talked about him to death in this video.
Yeah.
What do we have anything else we want to say with Ryu? I've already said my stuff. I think that we talked about him a little bit with his grandmother, but I'll defend how he is just a little bit because, like I said, I do think that what they're trying to do with him is that he is kind of forcing himself to repress everything he feels with Rie, and it's working right now, but the it's not the strongest it can be. And like I said, I like how Ryu tries to like. I mean, okay, maybe whether you guys like the whole Guy and Kaori romantic dynamic or not, you have to admit that it's pretty cool of Guy to like subtly try to give Guy credit because he wants Kaori to like he can see that Guy likes Kaori and he wants to help him. I don't think that's just him wanting to get Kaori off his back. I think it's genuinely because he wants to help Guy in that case. And you could say that the romance between Guy and Kaori doesn't work, and that's fine. But let's not let that ruin the fact that Ryu is a pretty cool guy in this case.
No, Ryu's definitely a cool character, and I mean, you asked me a question. I don't know if it was in the podcast or on the side, Nathan, a while back, on my definition of a red. I think it was in a podcast for Sinkinzer.
Mhm.
And I gave a criteria, and Ryu checks all the boxes of being a good red, but he's not done anything super notable to be like to stick out as like a person that I would probably remember in like 10 seasons from now. Like he's good, he fills the role, but he doesn't do anything to make him stand out more.
Okay.
Um, so I doesn't mean I don't like him. It just means he hasn't done anything yet to wow me to the point of, ooh, he's a great character, he's my favorite or something, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's an important thing to mention here, given, a lot of people are probably going to be wondering what we think of Ryu in terms of that.
You want to add anything with Ryu, Anthony?
Nah, nothing about him is really like my opinion hasn't really changed much. So like I'm just waiting to see what more he does.
Okay. Unfortunately, Raita doesn't have any character-focused episodes here, although he would have been better for the spotlight in that paper episode. He did have some cool moments, though. Like I said, I like that little quote that he makes about women shopping. He dresses up like a woman in drag to outsmart the monster, which was awesome. I don't like how he's involved in this little love relationship here, but you know what? He's still just an awesome guy, so I can't bring myself to hate him.
Raita is still one of my favorite characters in the Sentai. They're doing him dirty with the love square, I think, but overall, that doesn't detract from him being a good character. Just like how Guy doesn't have an immediate "he's the terrible character" thing yet for the same reason. So yeah, I think Raita's a good character overall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You want to add?
I'm gonna go real quick on Kairi and Akko because I don't have a lot to say there. Kairi hasn't really she's coming into her own finally, but yeah, she's not done enough to become that much more interesting yet. Like she's getting there, but she's not quite there. And then Akko hasn't really changed a lot. She picked up a musical talent, but I mean, okay, cool.
You want to add anything, Anthony?
Like I said, right. I like Raw Rice as a character. He's really growing on me very fast. I just feel bad for him at times when he gets screwed over by just any person who anyone on the team that especially Guy will push it aside. Even though I think it's funny, it's also kind of sad that he gets kind of pushed around a little bit. It's kind of relax on this dude, chill. And also, Kyrie did not have to kick him in the balls. What was up with that?
That was bad.
Yeah. But we're not going to mention a guy grabbed at monster's balls in the one episode, The Henchman.
Gag that he fights dirty. That's what it's supposed to be shown.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, but I wouldn't be grabbing no monster's nuts though. I'm just saying, that's just me though.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
And you're thinking do those aliens even have testicles?
They do now.
You said that your character rankings hadn't really changed much. Did they, Riz?
No, it hasn't.
Guy's still number 1, Raita's number 2, Rei is number 3, Kairi is number 4, and Akko's number 5. Which is the same as last time, I believe. The only change I would probably make is Raita might now be a really close contender for number 1 with Guy.
Okay.
But as of right now, Guy still has the throne.
Are you both still enjoying Jetman?
Of course.
Yeah. I have a lot of complaints, but I'm enjoying the ride.
Okay. I will say, just to wrap this whole thing up before we go into it. I can see why you guys would be turned off by the romance story. I can understand where you're going. I do hope though that with the changes that we get, and we'll see a lot of that in the next episode, next batch of episodes. I'm definitely curious to see where you guys will think with that. But we'll just have to wait and see with that one.
Yeah.
But okay, this has been our second podcast on Choujin Sentai Jetman. Next time, we will be taking a look at episodes 20 through 32. We have to add two episodes to our next batch because episodes 30, 31, and 32 are actually a 3-parter episode. So we're going to have to do that. But with that said, we thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen to our podcast here. Whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, or iTunes, we very much appreciate that. If you were listening to this on YouTube, we would like for you to leave a comment down in the comment section, just giving your thoughts on this, and also like the video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not already subscribed. Check us out at animesecrets.org. And check us on our social media pages on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Once again, we thank you guys so much for joining us. We will join you again next time, hopefully with the entire crew together again. But until that time, we are the Toku Secrets Podcast, and we are flying out of here until our next podcast. So until that time, see you later.